in Nigeria and not only in Nigeria, also in the world because from time to time, I try to support questions online and I'm part of the Dynamics community moderator. All right, so here today we're going to talk about how to extend D365 F&O with Copilot Studio. All right, D365 is an ERP that we use in our organizations, and there are cases where we need to do customizations. There are processes that are not being responded to from the act of the boss. So traditionally, what we do is we use X++ to customize these processes. Now AI is here, and some of these things that we do through X++ are much more easier. So how do we leverage on this in Copilot Studio? So Daudi has already spoken about, he showed us how to go into Copilot Studio and how to create agents. So I'm going to do something similar, but I'm going to focus more on how to connect Copilot Studio with Dataverse. All right, so I wouldn't waste much time. I'll just go straight to the key points. What are the prerequisites you need to do before you be able to extend D365 with Copilot? Now, 2 years ago, when AI came in, first of all, it was in MS365, then it came to Power Platform. Then we were also fortunate enough to have that in D365. Now, the very first two things we had were we had the Copilot sidebar feature where right in Dynamics 365, you can write prompt to ask how to create purchase orders, how to run vendor reports, and you have information that are retrieved from the Microsoft documentations. Then we also have the Copilot sidebar feature, and that one, what it does is right on Dynamics, there are some major forms where you have summary. Take, for instance, the vendor page. Now, on vendors, you want to see how many transactions do we have with this vendor, what is the customer or the vendor balance. You need to click on so many buttons to be able to get that information. Now, with the summary page, right on the vendor card, there's a new tab that shows the summary about the vendor, about the product, and some other things. So, and then came Copilot Studio, where we ourselves can define some prompts, create some agents to get specific information. Now, let me show you the architecture of how this works. So, really, there have been some changes in Dynamics 365, right? Since when we came up with AX7 and F&O, the database structure is being shifted from being an SQL database into the Dataverse. Before now, ERP on its own, and the CRM is also on its own. So Microsoft is saying everything is coming together into Dataverse, and that is why LCS, which is the famous tool we use to deploy our Dynamics 365 environment, are now moving to the Power Platform Admin Center. So now, even your ERP is sitting right there on the Dataverse. So it makes it easier for Copilot to connect to finance and operation through the Dataverse, which we have here. And there are some grounding that are done, and informations are retrieved back to the user. Okay, so that takes me to the Copilot Studio interface. Just like he showed, we have the agent. Now, part of the prerequisite is your ERP must be connected to a Dataverse environment. Okay, because like I mentioned, the information is being picked from the Dataverse. So I'm going to do a demo shortly, and we'll see how that works. So first of all, you need a Microsoft Copilot Studio license. You need to have a Microsoft Dataverse environment. And here comes the famous virtual entity setup. So in D365, even during our customizations, we use what we call the OData protocol, right? So you want to consume some data from D365, maybe for some report, or to even talk to an external system, we use OData. And these are available by default. Now, to be able to use Copilot in a similar way to connect to OData, we use what we call the virtual entity setup. And these are not available or enabled rather by default. So you need to be specific. Say, for instance, you want to retrieve customer data. We have the data entity called customer V3. So you need to enable that on Dataverse before the Copilot can see it as a knowledgeable source to do the grounding. And the next thing is you need access to the Power Platform Admin Center. And then we connect Copilot between D365 and the Power Platform. So let's move on to the demo. Okay, I think let me stop the presentation. Okay, good. So these are some of the tools that I mentioned. So I mentioned that the first thing is you need to have access to the license, which is the Copilot Studio license in Admin Center. All right. Now, also on LCS, this is an environment that I created myself and I name it Komi. All right. So on LCS, there needs to be a Power Platform integration which is enabled. So it means I have a corresponding Dataverse environment with the ERP. The same information can be accessed from the what we call the pack or the PPAC. So here, when I come to the Komi environment, I have both the URL for the ERP and that of the Dataverse environment, as you can see here. Good. Now, once this is done, the next thing is to enable the virtual entity, which is done on the Dataverse environment. This is a dual right thing, right? Exactly. Now, I would say it's not really dual right, and it is. Dual right allows you to move data from the ERP to the CRM, all right? Now, the virtual entity is used mainly for Copilot Studio and some other things, maybe like Power Platform and the rest of them, okay? Now, to enable the virtual entity, you come to the Dataverse environment, and let's go to sales. Okay, I think can do that from here. Let's go through sales app. Okay, so the reason why this is very, very important is, like I mentioned, if you don't have this enabled, you won't be able to see the entity that will be used as the knowledgeable source in Copilot Studio. Go to settings, advanced settings. Then we'll go to advanced find. I think let's switch to classic. All right, so while that is being open, so I'll go straight to the Copilot Studio in order not to waste time. All right, so right here, we have different environment that we can switch to. So I have the Komi UDE and I have Komi. This is what I'm using. I switch to this environment. Then I'm just going to go straight to one of the agents and show you how we can connect to the Dataverse. Now, once you connect, like you mentioned earlier, we have knowledgeable source. We have our topics. We have, okay, so the agent is here. Good. So I have one which I called collection assistant. So I'm not going to go through the process of creating a new one. All right. Now, I would like to also mention that for the user creating this agent, you need to have access to both F&O, and also the Dataverse environment, all right? So under the knowledge source, you can see here that I have some data entities. So I'm going to try to create a new one, add the knowledge, and go to Dataverse. So if it's the first time you're trying to add Dataverse, you will be asked to connect to the F&O environment, then you authenticate. So on the search, I can find all the virtual entities that have been enabled by typing MSERP underscore. So this is showing me all the entities that are coming from the F&O side, all right? So take, for instance, I want to make inquiries on vendors. So I'll pick the different entities that I want. You can also preview to see the content of this data. Okay, so this is our legal entity in F&O, right? These are the addresses of the vendor, so on and so forth. So if you're okay with this, we can simply say next, then we add to agent. So when the user sends a prompt and the grounding is happening, Copilot Studio or the agent runs through all these entities and provide feedback to the user. So here, for instance, I can say how many customers do we have in USMF? Voila. So it's running through the different sources that are added. Remember, this is an engine that we are creating. So we also have to be careful to ensure that the knowledgeable source that we're trying to add are the ones that are applicable to this particular agent. All right. So once the result comes up, it's going to show me the exact knowledge source that was able to help in retrieving the data. Good. So it says there are 1860 distinct customers. And when you click on this, it will take me directly to the table where this information was retrieved. Here it is. So let's try to add some other columns to have.
So do they need both F&O license and the power of license to access this? When we click, you just take them to the 365 page, right?
Yeah, this is because I am an admin. All right. So they don't need to come to this page. They don't need this.
This agent, a sales guy who doesn't need a F&O license, but he wants to access the F&O database and get the customer information means he may search in the agent and the agent gives him the list of response.
Yes.
And the response, he has a link to click and see the customer information, right?
Yes.
That comes from F&O page or from a...
Okay, so when you're done with the agent, right, you won't give them access to the Copilot Studio. You can bundle the agent into Microsoft Teams. So on Teams, there is a channel where they can just, there's an agent where they go to that agent and say,
Dynamics 365 page, right?
this one.
Yeah.
They don't need to see this one. They don't need to see this. Yeah. I am seeing it because exactly. Yeah. All right. So another thing I want to talk about quickly is here on this agent, we also have the tools which used to be called action. So take, for instance, I retrieve the customer data and I want to maybe create a customer payment journal. All right. So we can do that from the tool and select Microsoft Dataverse. And what do I want to do? I want to add a role to a particular environment. So when you click on select add role to an environment, Yeah, this is the connection I was talking about earlier. This is the F&O environment. Then I add the agent. So this, by just putting a prompt and say, create a customer payment journal of 1,000 dirham and use today as the posting date, automatically.
That's what I'm asking for. This connection establishment, that agent.
Sure, yes. You need to have a license, a Copilot Studio license. Yeah.
Copilot Studio 65.
For the user, you need a 365 OFO license for the user. The person building the agent needs the Copilot license studio. Yeah. Okay. Then now, all of this I've done now, I've been able to add a knowledgeable source. I've been able to create, also add a tool. And I did all of this independently. Now, Microsoft also came about newly with the MCP servers. All right. So what MCP server does is it comes predefined with some functionalities that can retrieve data and at the same time can also take some actions. So when you click on MCP, Dataverse Server, and Add Agent, there are predefined tools that come all together. And what are MCP servers? Just take it like the way we have a standardized way of doing our API connections, right? You know, APIs are simple way of connecting data, whether the stack you have is X++, it is Python. When you are pushing to someone, it comes in a REST format, right? So MCPs are something like that that is being worked on. So at the end of the day, in the AI world, we have a standardized way of retrieving data or pulling data to another system. Okay, so now once this agent is ready, we can publish the agent. And like I mentioned, once it's published, we can push it into Microsoft Teams and users can start making use of this agent. Another thing we have is plugins. So I can create X++ programs and call them up in the Copilot Studio. That's something that Microsoft is also working on and to be released soon. Okay, so that will take me to the end of this short demo of how to connect the Copilot Studio with Dataverse and interact with D365 F&O data. If you have any question, thank you. Okay.
Komi around. Thank you so much, Komi, for the insights on Dynamics 365 with Copilot Studio. A small token of thanks from us. I invite Deblohit.